So it's getting close to August 1st, which is the deadline for the tariffs. I mean, so we're, what, July 28th. Trump makes a monster deal with the EU. I mean, unbelievable pro to America versus EU. EU should be embarrassed by this deal, but this deal is very good for us. He also says Cambodia, Thailand, straighten it up or the deal is off. They all of a sudden do a peace agreement. The deals that he's making is unbelievable. America is getting some of the best deals it's ever gotten, like Japan's quote-unquote bonus. Sadly, we've been kind of misconstrued and our news has been so totally on the files. If they would release this, I believe you'd start seeing massive winning. Trump is doing phenomenal things when it comes to these trade deals. Now, what else is going to happen this week? This week is really the week. He actually came out and stated that Russia's deal may actually lose 50 days. It may be under because he's disappointed in Russia and Putin. A lot's taking place, and this week will be the week that we will see trade deals either come together or not, and actually see some of the tariffs and what they really mean. We'll talk about that today. Also, we're going to talk about cell phones, the dangers of putting a cell phone in your child's hand or in your grandchild's hand at a young age. The stats are unbelievable. Also, we're going to talk about what China just did with ATMs. Money is gone. What do they move to? What are they moving to? This is exactly what will take place in the rest of the world. And this is a foreshadowing of me telling you to get away from some of this digitized currencies. And then the last thing we're going to discuss again is our food system. We see that New Jersey, Connecticut, we see Colorado we talked about last week. We heard about all these farms that are actually getting seized. Different permits, different processes that these government and cities are placing in, and now they're taking people's farms. You won't believe how much chicken we need each year. The more that we need food and the more that Americans get dependent on food, the more the food system has to grow in a way that we don't have. So i.e., then you come in with new innovative ways of growing food. Mr. Gates has an idea, and because you're not growing your own food and because they're seasoning your own food, the food that now you are getting, it may have something on it. We'll discuss those stories dealing with your food. All these things that we talk about are meant to make you wiser and have a better common sense approach as you go through life. Let's discuss these stories today. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. First, let's jump into these trade deals. And as we loom closer to August 1st, you're starting to see some of these deals come through. Now, these trade deals and these tariff embargoes that are coming for August 1st is basically a deadline to say, okay, we've got to make these things happen. Let's talk about the EU. Now, you know about the bonus situation with Japan last week, which was absolutely wonderful. Actually, it was so good for America that most people thought it was fake. Most people thought that Trump was lying about the money that we're getting from Japan and how they're not going to take hardly any profit. But then I want you to listen to this deal with the EU. It proves the point that Trump really is doing a huge job when it comes to trade negotiations. It says Europe has committed another economic suicide in the new agreement with the USA. This is actually from a EU source. Listen, European goods coming into the US will have a 15% tariff. The EU will put 0 tariffs on US goods. It will make $600 billion in US investments plus military and buy $750 billion in US energy, several times more expensive than Russia's. And most likely the EU will continue to use Russia gas, but invoiced by the USA, meaning they have to use our dollar. With the agreement, the EU is already an absolute vassal of the United States, and with almost no influence in geopolitics, they rely strictly on America. The obsession with Russia by unelected EU leaders will bring the union to an end. Unfortunately, the so-called new conservatives across EU, Le Pen, AfD, Orban, and like the others, are great vassals, but ultimately Trump held the bigger hand. From the American perspective, it says, some European countries are fuming about the EU's deal with President Trump. Not only did they concess the fact that this is all about the American side, the EU deal is scandalous compared to the EU standards. That's what we like to hear in America. Trump, the EU is going to purchase from the U.S. $750 billion of worth of energy, agree to another $600 billion in investment, agree to open the country with zero tariffs. They are agreeing to purchase a vast amount of military equipment. We are agreeing to this tariff straight across the automobiles and everything else, so straight across the board of a 15%. Reporters in the room at the time of the deal were so shocked that they asked, what in the world is the U.S. giving? What's the concessions there? What is the U.S. giving up, if anything? And the president says, precisely, this deal is for America. So now you're seeing between the 600, the 750, the fact of the zero tariff is a monster deal. That means now our cars and automobiles could be sold over there at a 0% tariff, up to 15% on reciprocal tariffs, depending on what they work out. But ultimately, it's over $1 trillion. It's like $1.3 trillion, not including military spending, that they're going to be buying. The EU is going to be buying from America. And all we had to do was just offer a 15% reciprocal tariff. It shows the power of what Trump was doing. This is a massive, massive, massive win for the Trump administration. Now let's go to one more thing dealing with the Trump administration and their dealing with tariffs. Thailand and Cambodia will enter into an unconditional ceasefire starting midnight on Monday. Malaysia's Prime Minister said both Cambodia and Thailand reached a common understanding because Trump put his 2 cents in and said, if you do not stop this and start an unconditional peace agreement, the deals are off. It says Thailand and Cambodia agreed to an unconditional ceasefire and the halt on the border clashes because Trump threatened both countries. All of a sudden, within 24 hours, it was done. That's massive wins. Now, the reason I say that I had this with the caveat is because we're still having this thing with the list, looming over us. He needs to handle that so that way we can walk away from it, because now you just stopped a war from taking place. Not only the situation with Pakistan and India a few months ago, you stopped a war. He's been trying to find peace in Russia and Ukraine. He stopped the war with Iran and Israel. Now he's stopping the war with Cambodia and Thailand, and then just made one of the biggest peace deals and treaty deals and trade deals with European Union. These are massive wins. They're so overshadowed because of 2 things. You have a worthless Congress. The worthless Congress will not actually pass his people that Trump wants in his administration. 6 months later now, there's still people held up in the Senate and Congress. What they don't tell you is this, though. While they're on recess taking a 5-week break with your taxpayer dollars, they're coming back every 4 to 5 days just to hit the gavel. You know what that gavel does? First of all, it takes advantage of you and screws you over because they're still making money by not voting on bills. But what it does is it does not allow them to quote-unquote be in a true recess. So it allows Trump not to actually do these appointments without the Senate there, without the Congress there. So when you think about Mike Johnson and John Thune and all these people in Washington and legislation, they're actually hurting you and hurting the president. They're not standing with the president. And then secondly, the list. Like I said, we have to handle the list situation. Just release it. Just be done with it. Explain if someone's on the list that was not doing anything wrong, this was a business transaction, may have not been above board, but ultimately it's just money compared to the other stuff that actually Epstein really got in trouble for. So we need to handle that so that way it does not cloud the judgment of all the good things that are going on. Now, before we go into the other stories, a word from today's sponsor, Chapter. Remember, Chapter is becoming one of my best sponsors, not because you're buying stuff from them. This has nothing to do with that. Chapter is actually advising you. It's free. It's F-R-E-E free. The point of what they do is they help if you are 65 and older, or you're about to be, or you're on Medicare. Let them come alongside. Call this number below. Just take 15 to 20 minutes of your time. Tell them what you have. Let them walk you through it. Remember, everybody that's talking about supplements and this part D and part B and part A and part whatever Z, bottom line is this. What they represent in all truthfulness is they know how to advise for you. They'll be the ones to talk you through the best situation for you and your family. The average American saves $1,100. 2 people that I've dealt with that literally just called back in to tell me what they thought. One emailed and said, hey, I saved $1,240. The other individual said I saved over $800. All because I called them. If you have the best plan, fine. You'll have the best plan, they'll tell you that. But if you don't, they can help you because they check all the plans out, and what they're doing for you is free. It costs you nothing. Check with Chapter today, because if you are dealing with trying to save money in the older ages and you're on a fixed income and Medicare is right in front of you, do not miss on this opportunity to save some money. Check with Chapter so they can help you walk through this Medicare journey. Now I want to go through some of the farming things, and then we'll move on to the other stories we talked about in the intro. This is from Wall Street Apes. It says, even CNN has confirmed that New Jersey Democrats are using eminent domain to seize family farms and turn them into low-income housing projects. Each town has required of how much affordable housing they have to provide. So the townships send this family, this farm family, a letter saying they're offering to buy the property, threatening to just seize it with eminent domain. See, this is how this works. So they send you a letter of some kind of option to buy your property. Well, if you're not wanting to sell it, it doesn't matter what they're offering because you don't want to sell it. Then they're saying, well, I'm going to just take it anyway. See, that's how dangerous government is. Now, we want to blame the problems of a lot of our issues on Washington, and there's a lot of blame when it comes to that. But you know, when it comes down to property tax and eminent domain issues, that's really a city and state problem. And that's why, even though we want property tax down, even though we want eminent domain not, really tied to us and have all these easements on our properties, most of that comes from the local people. The people that you probably see in your local Walmart, the people you probably see in your local fast food joint, the people that you literally go to church with. And now this farm in New Jersey is going to be seized. Now, luckily there's been a lot of outcry to hopefully help this guy out to save his farm. But this farm is 100 years old, and they're going to take it. They're going to say, well, here's what the assessed value is. So he didn't want to sell it. So they're going to say, well, if you don't take the money, if you don't just take the money for the land, I'm just going to seize the property. Is that really what we want? I told you the story with my land. Before I bought the land, and actually the previous owner, that easement, if you know, I have an easement through my property. I bought the other side not too long ago, and that's what, if you've been watching my vlog, you've seen that. But that easement, actually, the guy that owned it before me was a lawyer, and he said, we fought them tooth and nail so they could not run that through our land. Because we had cattle, we had sheep, we had cotton, we had trees. There was no reason for them to go through that. But they chose to, and he said, we fought them in court, and guess what? We lost. He said, we had to take the money, or they were just going to take the land anyway. Really, is this what we want? Do we really have peace and freedom when the government can take your land? Two more stories dealing with food, because it goes together. The more that the government takes our land because they need more places for people to live, the less time and place you have to grow food and agriculture. Two stories. Listen to this. The Americans are getting wrecked when it comes to chickens. How many animals do we eat per year? Spoiler, it's not even close. We kill over 80 billion with a B, chicken a year on this earth. That's enough for every human to have 20 drumsticks annually. Now, what they're saying is that goes in a lot of other foods too. Cows, pigs, fish, they don't even come close. The poultry is the leader of this. But guess what? Here's the thing. How's that industry regulated? For the longest it was not heavily regulated, but it is monopolized. Four big players provide all your chicken. All right? The more you see the farm go away, the more you see industrial style co-op farming coming, meaning you don't have the power, they have the power. Did you know if you see all chicken houses, most of those farms are in debt up to their eyeballs. Usually a set of farms, a set of houses, growing houses, can cost anywhere from $1 to $2 million. By the time you have those paid off, you have to buy more to get a new contract with these four providers. Not only that, they're providing you the feed, they're providing you the chick, they're providing you the grain, they're providing you the buyer. If all of a sudden they decide to pull your contracts, you have nothing. So we see one situation where the government is taking the farm. We see another situation where the government has regulated the farm to a point where it's monopolized it to allow the independent American to not be able to actually compete against the big farms. Another story dealing with your farm. And this is why, again, you have to pay attention to your food. But if we can't grow our own food, then we have to deal with what we get. We'll be dependent on it. You see the food drops happening in Gaza. I'm glad they're getting food, but what I'm saying is this. If we get to the point where we have to get someone to provide for us, then whatever they provide, we're going to eat. Listen to this new story. Our good friend Bill Gates, I say that facetiously by the way, gets a green light from FDA to spray RNA on food products in America. So all these sprays, all this stuff, remember I told you Congress was giving passes to all the sprays, all the companies that do sprays. All of a sudden, how do you like that? Bill Gates' new company gets a pass to be able to spray trees, to spray crops with RNA. So you know what, when you didn't want this, if you're not controlling your food system and you're dependent on big growers and you're dependent on big co-ops, you're dependent on the big business or the government taking other people's land so you can't buy from the farmer, you have just now taken this without even knowing it. Isn't that unbelievable? And the FDA, your government, gave them the pass for it. The same way they gave them the pass for the fungicide on organics. All they had to do is change the name of it a little bit and all of a sudden now it's allowed. You have to control your food system because if you allow the big business and government and big players to do it, you're going to be sitting there with your hand out. I always say the chirping bird effect. That's what I call it, really. You're going to be like the little chirping birds in the corner sitting in the nest waiting for the mom to come feed you because you can't go out there and get it yourself. You're too dependent on your mom. That's where we're at in the nation. And we're allowing even the people that consider on our side are taking advantage of us. And if we're not careful, between property tax and eminent domain, the government takes our lands. It's what's happening in California right now, by the way. What's happening in New Jersey right now. Colorado right now. They're going to keep on taking our lands. And then on top of that, the food system that you will be taking in will be regulated, will be controlled, and will be sprayed. And you have no say over it because you can't grow your own food. You're dependent on it. Last stories before we wrap up. Phones before 13 linked to worse mental health. Now, this is one we've never given our kids any kind of smartphone, social media presence until they were 18. That was our agreement. Now, Aiden just graduated, so he's 17 going on 18. He just received a phone that still has blocks on it, but it's for work. It's a work phone. But before 17 and below or 18 below, what we've done with our kids, if we give them what we call dumb phones. That's a stupid terminology, I know. It's just a phone, a talk and text phone. I can get in touch with you, you can get in touch with me, but that's pretty much it. I want you to listen to why this is important. Because I believe social media and the presence of social media and smartphones can be the most dangerous thing you put in your kids' hands. A study that was done on 100,000 children found that kids who got smartphones at an early age have higher rates of depression, lower self-worth, and suicidal thoughts. Listen to that. Nearly half of the girls who use phones from age 5 to 6 reported severely suicidal thoughts compared to 28% who got them at 13 and older. So they were 28% higher if they got the phones at 5 and 6 and 7 years old to be more suicidal than they were if they just got the phones at 13. I wouldn't even say 13, you need to be 18. Researchers say delaying smartphones until at least 14 and even 16 when it comes to social media could help from preventing long-term damage. Again, I would say 18 on all those things. Social media is a death pot. If you're just sitting there doom scrolling all the time, as a parent, that's a bad thing. But you give it to your children get so entangled into this, so entangled into the world where they can't put it back. You know, kids who were bullied in school when we were kids. Now, we all had, I was in the age where they started bringing in like the Nokia phones, the Motorola phones. So you had cell phones, but you couldn't do nothing with them. You could text and things like that. But if you saw a kid getting bullied, by the time they went home, it was over. With social media presence and with smartphones, that kid never leaves that. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, this kid's getting bullied, this kid's getting spat on, this kid's getting completely abused because of social media. It's ruining our kids' lives. And on top of that, it says that AI, there was a doctor that came out and said that AI involved with the smartphone, where their kids are using the smartphone for more than just social media, not use it for talk and text, they're actually using it to do their work. It's making our cultures absolutely stupid. That's what he said. So not only are we getting more lethargic, more anxious, more anxiety, more depression, more suicidal, now we're seeing the fact that we're getting more dumber and we can't process for our own self. We can't multitask for our own self. Is this really what we want to do with our children? And then on top of that, we're feeding them garbage food. I mean, do you see the problem, the foreshadowing the future of what we're looking at right here? It is literally a fall of man. We're creating hard times for our children. So please, make sure you don't put phones in the hands of your children. Like my kids, like my daughter, my youngest daughter, Livy, she'll get to the point where she'll grab an iPad and we're like, no, you can't do that. She'll go grab a phone. No, you can't do that. Because we don't want, even though she's not on social media, even though she's not worried about anything else but watching YouTube, I don't want those devices in their hands all the time. It's not good for them. So we make them go out, we get in the pool, we go out, we walk, we run, we ride bikes, we go out and play. Because if you want to make children be children again and be happy like they should be, you got to get this junk out of their hands. And I believe you actually need to get out of their hands till they're 18. Now that may be the most unpopular opinion that you hear, but it's probably the truth that you need to hear. Now, last story I'm gonna bring up. This is why I say you gotta push against not using cash, meaning you need to use cash everywhere you go. Everybody tells you don't use cash, use ATMs, use digital currency, use your new Apple Pay, use Cash App. Listen to this. This is happening literally. China shuts down ATMs. Here we go. In China right now, China shut down yuan cash and did not allow for ATMs to be open. This is China is suffering a real estate problem, economic collapse. So what they're actually doing is they're shutting down the ways to get your cash. And they're making everybody go to a stable coin or digital yuan. They're forced for that. What they're doing is saying, well, look, you don't need all this cash. What they're saying is, our economy's failing, we don't need you taking any money out. But ultimately, they stopped the movement of it. Why? Because people didn't have the yuans or the cash, in their case, at home. They trusted everybody to say, put it in the banks, put it on these apps, put it in these kind of digitized forms, and now guess what? They have no access to their cash in some of these bigger cities. You don't believe this could happen to you? What if all of a sudden you saw the market tank? What if all of a sudden you saw Bitcoin tank? What if all of a sudden you saw the dollar get destroyed because of BRICS? Because remember, every country that's working against America is working for BRICS. What if all of a sudden your bank says, no, you can't get your money? Do you realize now if you take $10,000 in or out of a bank, you have to sign all this document, you have to get your license, your driver's license, your social security number, all that stuff. Because it shows that they don't want you even touching your cash. They want you to make you feel dirty. Because if they believe you have a lot of cash, you've done something wrong. Actually, what cash does, it gives you freedom. Please quit using digitized forms of money. I have no problem. For instance, we're going out of town next week. I will have a credit card or debit card on me for safety. And when I'm in those kind of places, I tend to have a lot of cash, but there's some places that I may use debit cards and credit cards, of course. Like at a gas station, because I don't want to go in a convenience store. Okay, so I'm using a card chip reader card. That way I do not get hit with any kind of scamming or skimming. But on the other side of this, if you're not using cash when you're typically shopping, because first of all, you're getting discounts most of all, but you're keeping freedom. What just happened in China will happen here, will happen in Europe. They're gonna cut your access off to the banks and to your cash and put you on a automatic system of digitized forms of currency. You don't believe that happens? They're literally taking a man's farm. They're literally taking your wealth. They're seizing your property. They're making you pay still property tax in California. They're literally tapping your well so you can't get your water out of the own well that you paid. The government has put stipulations on it. They're Bluetoothing and wirelessing into your thermometers and thermostats at home so you can't go over and under certain things they set. They're charging you more for energy, for gas, for all these things because they don't want you going so much. So you don't believe they're going to take your dollar too? Fight against it by using cash and cash only. Fight against it by bartering. Fight against it by being independent and having sustainability. What this video should prove, Trump's making massive wins, but there's still a lot of road to go. And the best way to fight it is to be independent with your food, be independent with your money, keep yourself out of debt, and be free. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. We appreciate you for watching. God bless.